Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Make Better. This is a very special one because we have a new guest on, and he's going to be talking all about ad creative. It's going to be really exciting. We have Stu from Oxford Road. Stu, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your background and why you're here?
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. My name is Stu Redwine. Yes, that is my real name. I'm eternally grateful for it. I am honored to have the position of VP of Creative at Oxford Road, an advertising agency, the #1 independent audio advertising agency where we help dozens of brands for 10 years now. We're actually celebrating our 10-year anniversary next week, scale and perform in audio. So I've been in the podcast space for some time and have just recently actually started a show, like another podcast that's a subset of our current podcast, the Media Roundtable, called Ad Infinitum, where we break down all kinds of audio ads across all different platforms. And it was like right at the same time that Make Better came out, where you guys are breaking down podcast ads. And I'm like, oh man, this is like the light bulb, the airplane. Like when an idea's time has come, it arises in multiple places spontaneously. So I am super stoked to be on the show with you guys and love what you're doing with Make Better.
Oh, thank you, Stu. That was so great. Again, quite a group of experts we have here. And then, of course, the wonderful Adam.
Hey, stoked to be back here on Make Better this week. My name's Adam. I'm the VP of Marketing over at Adopter Media. We're a podcast advertising agency, mostly working on performance-based campaigns with DR brands. And, my story is a unique one. I think I've shared a little bit about it. I was an accidental podcaster turned accidental ad buyer at Fume who fundamentally ended up accidentally at Adopter Media and just kind of stumbling my way through this industry and learning as we go and sharing my insights on LinkedIn along the way. And I am excited to be on again this week and make some better ads.
Yeah, make some better ads. We've got some cool ones. I don't usually do an introduction, nobody cares, but Amelia, your host from Podscribe, all things podcast advertising and attribution, the analytics
Amelia.
Platform today.
We care. We care deeply, Amelia. Tell us your story.
You're the star of the show.
I am not going to let that fly. What is your story, Amelia?
We don't have 3 hours, Stu. No. My story is a digital marketer, performance marketer background. I've worked with a number of D2C brands scaling their growth and paid initiatives, and podcasting is one of those great and emerging channels. So got the exposure, buying podcast ads, and, clearly as, a lot of these attribution and companies and the Podscribes out there realize that this industry in entirety sort of needs to evolve a little bit to be like those other digital marketing channels that we've all probably run ads on. And so, love the work we're doing at Podscribe. This is really excited about this episode because we've got obviously sirens in the back because I am in New York, sorry. And, but we've got some great ones. We're going to be going through, this is actually a special episode because Podscribe just launched a really cool new feature. Don't know if you guys have heard about it, but ad scoring. So now with Podscribe, we are able to do, and you are able to get automated ad scoring specifically on host endorsed ads. So it'll provide you feedback. It'll give you a score, which is really great because a lot of agencies, I'm sure you guys are the same, end up doing that anyway. So it's been a really good new tool. It's still being refined. But what I wanted to do for this episode was with our two ad creative experts here and with ChatGPT, Podscribe's ad creative scoring expert. I want us to go through, we'll listen to these, we'll obviously provide our feedback, we'll give them our score, and then Stu, I know you want to talk a little bit about Audiolytics and the score that you might give it, and then we'll see what our Podscribe's brand scoring thing scores it as. So I think it'll be a good one, a little machine, little human interaction here, but without further ado, let's kick it off. All right, we're good to go. So the first ad we're going to listen to is a Caraway ad. Caraway Homes, they make the awesome D2C pans. They're on the toast. This was actually a simulcast ad, which again, we've talked about that. I don't know, Adam, do you just want to quickly reiterate what simulcast means?
Yeah, so typically a simulcast ad would be an ad that's both placed on the audio feed of a podcast and on a video feed of the podcast. So typically found on YouTube, but I mean, it's getting more popular now to see podcasts being hosted on Twitch or on Kick or on anything like a live stream platform or Rumble or wherever you catch a video podcast. So, right. And even on Spotify. Yeah. Spotify has its in-app video platform. in some capacity, that is also a simulcast ad. And so one of the benefits that you could get out of a simulcast ad is you get a visual component with your ad read, where a host might be able to hold up your product or show them wearing it, show them eating it, show them using it. They might even have a visual lower thirds bar that says, hey, use this discount code. Go to blankbrand.com/my discount code. And there's oftentimes a couple other benefits with that, like link and descriptions are higher click-through rates on YouTube versus on an RSS feed, like on Apple Podcast pages, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So lots of benefits to simulcast.
Awesome. All right. Caraway simulcast ad on a show called The Toast. This is a new ad. It was launched, I believe, somewhere in June. So definitely recent. Let's give it a listen.
Thursdays only on Hulu. You don't want to miss it. Today's episode is also brought to you by Caraway. Get a head start on spring cleaning with Caraway. Their thoughtfully designed sets and complimentary storage makes getting and staying organized easier than ever. You can now save 10% off the full suite of Caraway products, from the internet-famous cookware to their newly launched food storage set. Caraway's high-quality ceramic-coated kitchenware is free of PTFE like Teflon, lead, cadmium, and other toxic materials. Jax, I know you're like a ride-or-die Caraway girly, and you've been kind of away from home.
No, I've been struggling because since I've been here and now I'm going to be here for a few months, like I was like, you know what, I'm not going to get like Caraway pots and pans. Like it just seems excessive. But I've caved and I ordered another set because I actually find myself cooking less, because it's like, oh, I don't want to make eggs. They're going to stick to the pan.
So true.
I need my Caraway cookware. So I have the set. I have the frying pan already, and the rest of the things, I think they're being delivered today. I'm so excited. Like, it makes me cook more to use Caraway because it's such a pleasant experience, and the cleanup is so easy. Their pot should be called the chili pot.
Yeah.
Because it's amazing for chili.
So true.
But maybe like a summer soup. Maybe a gazpacho I'll make this summer.
A gazpacho?
A gazpacho by Caraway.
The thing I like about Caraway is like, yeah, there's all these great fancy things. But like, if you live with a Ben Soffer who will leave a pan out for months before he cleans it, it's such a relief to like, seriously, Ben will leave it out all day and there's like stuck on cheese, and you rinse it and it's so easy to clean. It really makes the cleanup more realistically doable, and it makes you not want to kill your husband, which is always
saving
a good
marriages.
thing. Visit carawayhome.com/toast10 to take advantage of this limited time offer for 10% off your next purchase. The deal is exclusive for our listeners, so visit carawayhome.com/toast10 or just use code toast10 at checkout. Caraway, non-toxic cookware made modern.
Also, the non-toxicity is key, especially I cook Harry's food in
Of
Caraway,
course.
and so it's like he's not going to now go to having toxins.
No, not on my watch.
No. Okay, our first story, Taylor Swift.
Right. That was the ad. That was a pretty long one. Let's start with Stu. High-level thoughts, and then what you think you'd give it as a grade.
Absolutely, for sure. Well, I know what I'd give it as a grade because, like you mentioned, we have a grading system that we use here at Oxford Road called Audiolytics. There's 9 key components, 71 subcomponents. Every single one of them is binary. Is this present or not present in the given advertisement? So from an Audiolytics standpoint, our goal for all in-market creative is a 90%. Caraway came in at a 67% because it's just missing on a couple of key components. But something I noticed, listen back to it just now, is like, to me, one of the most interesting pieces, and it speaks to me as an audience member, is that throwaway line towards the end of saving marriages. Caraway is saving marriages. Like, that is interesting. Most of the rest of the copy is, it's some, it was engaging. They did tell personal stories, but it was a little bit out of step. And where it got dinged from our ad grading standpoint is with the value prop. It wasn't super clear at the beginning that we're talking about the Caraway pots and pans. As they started talking, they're talking about the food storage and that this is a like time for spring cleaning. But then the other host transitioned it into like, let's start talking about the pots and pans with Caraway. So I think that could be more clear. And then also something that just feels like it's missing big time from like looking at this stuff and knowing about it is the theater of the mind of how awesome the Caraway, everything that they design, how great it looks. And so there's such an opportunity there where it's getting dinged as in value prop. It wasn't quite clear like the whole first half of the ad. So the value prop was not as clear as it could have been. In my view and from the grading standpoint. And I think when we talk about the other ads, we can kind of see how they all stack up because they've all been graded. And then there's an opportunity there in demonstration, one of the key components, to really use the theater of the mind, particularly with a product like this that does look so good. Like, it's one thing to try to sell something that doesn't come through on its promise. Their stuff looks amazing. And that's a huge thing that they can lean in and talk about. Oh, you got to go look at it. Just go take a look at it. So as far as the stacking it up against the others, I know we got to get to the other ones. So for right now, the number to remember is this one came in at a 67, which isn't terrible, actually. Isn't as bad as it sounds. 67 out of 90. And I think the opportunities to improve her for clarity and getting to the value prop, like what are we really talking about? And then, you know, is it the food storage or is it the pots and pans? And then from a demonstration standpoint, like talk to me more about how this stuff looks, not just functionally what it does. And then, you know, can you substantiate any of that beyond just their personal story with what are some specifics that actually makes Caraway better?
Love it. Beautifully put. Super interesting. Lots of thoughts on that, but before, Adam, do you agree? What would you have given this a score of? Yeah, talk to me about what your thoughts were.
Look, first off, I felt targeted by that ad because they were talking about people leaving pots and pans out for about a month, and I'm going to be honest, I have been that person many a time, and pans and me don't always get along because I don't like cleaning them. But so for me, being a guy who is terrible at cleaning pans, it does resonate to a degree. So I do really like how they got very into the personal experience out of it, but it took a while for them to get there. That's what I didn't like at the beginning, is that it started so formal and then it got into the informality. And I'm far more a fan of informal ad reads because they come across far more genuine. They come across far more real. They come across like they're people actually talking about a product that they use. And I like that she even mentioned that she even ordered another set. Now, that's actually pretty rare because oftentimes they'll come back to the brand and say like, hey, can you send us some more stuff? And maybe that's what happened. Who knows? You can speculate all you want, but the fact that they wanted more product and the fact that they got more product does show that they actually probably really do use the product, which sometimes I think you listen to a lot of ads these days and it's hard to tell if the host actually really does use the product or like the product. And that's becoming a bigger issue now that there's more and more brands in this space. How many brands can one person truly use that they truly advertise for? So I did feel like they genuinely like the brand, they genuinely like the product. There was a good endorsement there. It did take a while to get there, and I think to Stu's point, it was a little bit chaotic at the beginning. The other thing, and it drove me insane 5 seconds in, there was this massive tongue slapping noise like 5 seconds into the ad read where you hear this huge smacking of lips, like 10 seconds in. I'm like, oh, you could edit that out so easily. That's just one little tick. I don't know. It was gross to me. I didn't like it. The one thing I did notice, so I was watching the YouTube version of this, and this is where I think that the toast has an opportunity to go a lot deeper on the simulcast side of the read. There was no lower third saying, hey, go to caraway.com/toast10. There was nothing like that. And then they didn't even show the pans. They didn't show anything. They literally pulled up a little iPad that had their notes of what the ad read was. It became very informal. And actually, I think that detracts from the value of the ad read when all of a sudden on a video side, you see a guy holding a script or you see the host holding the script and they're reading it. That pulls me right out of it. It makes me think, oh, are they really talking from the heart about this product if they're having to read it? So that, to me, is where I think you can actually go wrong on simulcast. Simulcast has so many areas to go right in, but I think you can actually hurt yourself by doing the wrong things on simulcast. So that would be my takeaway. I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. Personal endorsement side was really, really good in my opinion. It ended strong, started slow, and I think they missed it on the YouTube side.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, super well put. I totally agree with you guys. I think that the moment that the other host came in, it was very conversational, and they were like, they did such a good job at like the personal testimonial. They talked about their experiences, the types of foods they make or would make. She talked about how like she was struggling because she was traveling, but she loves these pots and pans so much, and so she decided to buy another one. Again, whether she was gifted it or not, I think all of those, the personal endorsement, the realness of it felt very authentic. I think, again, to your guys' points, the beginning was such a miss because it felt like it was about to be just a basic ad script, and then it was almost more surprising that it ended up being like a 2-minute long ad. And so even just removing, I mean, they jumped into the offer so early on. They jumped into just some brand, they're the get a head start on spring cleaning with Caraway. I don't know, like, I don't think that's needed. I think they could have explained that, to your point, Adam, with the testimonial about how they're that bad pan person that leaves them soaking forever. So I think all of that could have been accomplished in the same way that they did the rest, where it was conversational. So, all right, we've got a 67, and let's say out of 10, that's around a 6 or a 7. Adam, you said around a 7.
Yeah, I'd give it a 7. It was still very encouraging. If I listened to it only, I would have said that was a great ad. When I watched the YouTube, that's where I lost some value.
That's a great point, too. So let's see what Podscribe graded it as. Just loading. All right, it gave it an 8. So the justification around this is that it did the personal experience stuff. It mentioned the product and how it helped them in their daily lives. And again, Stu, to your point, I think you called it that throwaway line that like is just so authentic and real and probably exactly what they talk about. But they mentioned saving marriages, which is ridiculous, but again, just so relatable in the context of what these girls probably talk about. And then the recommendation, again, sort of hit the nail on the head there. The ad beat could be more effective by focusing on the key benefits. Stu, to your point, I think I was a little confused. Are they promoting the pans or the pots or whatever it was? They probably could have made that a little more clear, or removed some of those redundancies in general. And then it also mentioned bringing up the product earlier in the script, and all of that. I think one of the things, and this is really interesting, it actually mentions reducing the amount of casual conversation. We are, Podscribe is still continuously refining this prompt, and we're improving it and stuff, because this is something that, again, this AI technology recommended, and it makes sense intuitively, but what we know about the industry is not the case. I actually think that it was incredibly effective because it probably went over the allotted time that it was supposed to have, and the conversational nature of it, going back to what Adam says all the time, is it was content, not an ad, which I want to stop there because I think this is something that like is a great conversation to have. Adam, you and I have been pretty about that. No music, like let's try to make ads into more content. And Stu, you and I have talked about this, and I know you share some of that same sentiment, but I think you approach it from a different side of the coin. And I wanted to, just see what your guys' thoughts were there, specifically yours, Stu, because we've talked about this concept so much in the episodes.
Yes, you have, and I enjoy listening to your guys' show a lot. And I think that there is having been in podcasts from the beginning, basically, at Oxford Road at least for the last 10 years, the Holy Grail or like the Mount Olympus is like, and there's such a fixation on it. It's like the Ring of Power in the Lord of the Rings. It's like the perfect ad that no one knows is an ad, that is completely genuine and authentic. And it's like, yes, that's cool. Like, I love seeing a half-court shot, like, all in one. There's also cases to be made for sometimes, like, Adam, the stuff you're talking about. I wonder about how much does seeing the piece of paper in the host's hand, how many Adams are there out there that, like, oh, I can see the script. No, not for me. Where if it connects and it's the right time and the person has a need for it or it connects to them emotionally, whether the person has a script in their hand or not, does that matter? Whether they know it's an advertisement or not, does that matter? So that's where I kind of get hung up on, is that like, yeah, I know it's an ad. Like, I hear some of this say 15% will save me, 15 minutes will save me 15% or more on car insurance. There's no question what is happening when that enters my ear, right? But wow, that, shoot, my car insurance bill is kind of high, and I have heard that 16 million times. Maybe I should talk to those guys. Whether or not I knew that was an ad or not, how important is that? Now, in audio, it is intimate, it is authentic, it always has been. I think that is a lever that is powerful, but it is not necessarily the end-all, be-all. That sometimes the host reading the copy, that's well-written copy, that makes the connection, it doesn't necessarily always have to be this what it feels like to me is like, it's like, did I even know that was an ad? How did I even know? Oh, I didn't even realize that was an advertisement. And it's like, I think that's cool. I think it's cool when we can achieve that, but I don't think we got to hit that every single time. I think that's one way to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting. No, totally, I agree with you. And I think to your point too, like, of course that is like the best scenario, right, as nobody knows, but the reality of that and the actual, feasibility of that is probably impossible. I think maybe it's something you should strive for. If anything, again, just more content in the ad that's less script reading, I think. But I totally agree with you, because at the end of the day, these are ads. And again, podcasting is one of those unique channels too, where people have stated that they actually appreciate the ads because they know that it supports the host that they want to continue to listen to. So, yeah, just really interesting. Adam, anything else you'd add to that?
No, I totally agree. Yeah, I don't know if there ever will be a perfect 10 out of 10 read in any capacity. It's all about aiming and seeing how close we can get to a great read that will convert. And I think it comes down to, like, similar to how people coming out of a Facebook ads or Google ads background will look at things. They'll look through retention rates, they'll look through listen through rates on their ads, click through rates, etc., and start to optimize. Where can we make micro adjustments on ad reads here and there that will ultimately lead to better results for the brand? Because at the end of the day, the formula is this: if you drive better results for the brand's likely going to come back, and they may even spend more on your show, or you can up the rates because you're driving even better results. So from the podcaster's angle, the more you can do for the brand in the quality of your ad reads and the ability to convert customers for them, the better it will come back to you.
Yeah.
Adam, it's spot on like it's the end result, and you know, the hosts know best how to connect to their audience and activate them. And for some, that might be like Lex Fredman, you know, when I like his voice and the way he reads, it's like you stack that up against a more dynamic host given a really did, and you were just to ask somebody like, which one of these is more in touch and is going to create a stronger emotional reaction, and they're going to go, oh, the guy that's super animated, when you're like, oh no, actually the performance, let me show you the performance on some of these ads. But it's what you're saying is that's music to my ears to go, what's the end goal? And you know, for some, like it might be using sonic branding. It might be like you're saying, you know, I only listen to the audio version of that, and everything you're saying about simulcasting is great. It's like, yeah, man, like hold up the pot and pan, show it to me, hit it with a hammer, like make the noise, like do something to make it more interesting and engaging. That's the end game, is how do you activate your audience. And for some hosts and for some brands and for some shows, that is going to be, you know, it's almost like the NPR, you know, from radio, from 100 years of radio. It's like that's where they got to, is that it's like, you know, it's not even an ad. It doesn't feel like an ad at all. It's like, okay, that might work, but if we think that that's what has to work for every brand, for every read, for every you know, advertisement, I think we're missing an opportunity. The result is, how do we connect the best to their individual audience?
Absolutely. I'll add one last thing because I know we got to move on. But you hit something really interesting there, Stu, is that different hosts connect differently with their audience. Like if you put a Lex Friedman ad on, you know, a Stiff Stocks episode, because we're about to listen to that, it would not come through properly. But if you put a Stiff Stocks ad on Lex Friedman, it also wouldn't go through properly, because you can't put a non-dynamic host doing a non-dynamic ad on a dynamic show, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So really it has to come down to, is this what your audience is used to hearing from you? Because if all of a sudden you change the tonality, change the speed, change the dynamic nature of it, now you're causing a big shift in your audience. You're rocking the boat while they're listening to the episode, and they're like, whoa, I'm taken aback by this new personality that I'm hearing for the 60 seconds of this podcast episode. So as long as you're being true to your audience and true to yourself, and you're finding a way to do that with your ad reads, you're going to do a lot better in general. Don't try to force yourself to be someone you're not for your ads.
Oh my God, I wish we had 2 hours, because that's so many other questions from that. This is awesome. But for the ADHD in me, we will continue to make sure we don't run up on time. So next ad, we're actually going to skip, we'll do Caraway at the end, but we're going to do a ritual ad. This is on the Know For Sure podcast. Again, it was a recent, it recently went live on the 4th of July. So very new. And if anybody that hasn't heard about Ritual, they're basically, they used to be woman, you know, just not multivitamins, but wellness vitamins. And now they've expanded into men, but beautiful brand, really, really great marketing. So here we go.
I'm starting to understand, okay,
All right, you guys, hold on. Let me guess. I know you can spot a too good to be true health hack from a mile away. You be hitting up your friends for the latest studies about healthy aging. You read labels like it's your job. Is that you? Well, congratulations, baby. You're a skeptic, okay? You deserve a multivitamin that more than meets your standards. Enter Ritual.
You guys, I love Ritual Essential because for women 18 and older, this is one of the few multivitamins that's soy-free, gluten-free, vegan-friendly, and formulated without GMOs.
I love that. It's super, super healthy.
Even has a minty, fresh essence.
Yes.
Every time you open the bottle.
That. Every time you open it, so it's super, super enjoyable.
Yeah.
So you guys, no more shady business. Ritual's Essentials for Women 18 and Up is a multivitamin you can actually trust, and Ritual is offering our listeners 10% off during your first 3 months. Visit ritual.com/KFS to start Ritual or add Essential for Women 18 and older to your subscription today. All right, back to the show.
Ooh, God, the energy there. All right, let's kick it off with Adam.
So first off, I actually really like the ad itself. It's a good ad. Like, it sounds great. It's smooth. They hit the talking points. It didn't have a lot of ums and ahs or stumbling. It felt like they knew what they were talking about. Could have been from a script. Who knows? But it sounded good. It was smooth. I talk about this all the time. The music in this was mixed really loudly. It almost took away from me being able to hear the ad itself. It was hard to hear the words coming through over the music. And half of my time that I was listening to it, I was trying to pick in my brain, like, where is this music coming from? It sounds like a TikTok sound in the background or something, and it distracted me from the content of the ad. So that's where I didn't love the music integration and that big whoosh right at the beginning. It's like, holy, I was listening to this great moment from a podcast, and it was a male voice host that all of a sudden whoosh came in, female voice host now reading an ad. It just came across as a very big blunt transition. That's where I think I would draw away points. So the music and the big whoosh, that's where I didn't like it as much. But other than that, like, pretty solid read.
What do you grade it?
I'd give it a score of like, yeah, good question. On the quality of the read itself, I'd give it like a 7, but I'm going to give it a 6 just because I didn't like the way that it was integrated into the show.
Dude, this is insane. So that's got a 60 in Audiolytics. The read's got a 60%. So spot on, right in there. Yeah, dog. Yeah. What I like about that is, like any system or formula, hopefully it is externalizing a self-evident truth. So, and then obviously Adam, from all the work and the time.
You'd hope so.
You hope so, right? Exactly. So this is good. Yeah, I think like a lot that you said, it's interesting on the music thing, because we do a lot in radio and streaming as well. And for years at Oxford, like, our going in position is no music, no sound effects, just a voice. And I'm talking on terrestrial radio, Sirius XM, like sort of channel agnostic within audio, to go like, let me just make sure I put the right words across. Because it's like, and Amelia and I were talking about this a little bit in show prep, like, just saying the right words in the right order. Like, that's the Mark Twain quote. It's the difference between lightning and a lightning bug. Like, so if you have a voice that's going to resonate with people, and you have a clear, good message, like in audio, it's going right in there. You're setting yourself up for success as opposed to using gimmicks and tricks. Like you're saying with the whoosh, it kind of sounds like, well, that's where like graphics would come on. It felt like I was watching a news show or something. The music, I'm torn though on it, because like music can establish a mood, and I don't know. There's so many millions of shows. So if they've been trained, which just kind of goes back to what we were saying on the first one, if their audience has been trained for that, okay. Now here's the thing: we're coming in just listening, so we're just grading it with what we hear. So I think we do have to grade it on somewhat of a curve, but I hear you on that. I think, look, they said like this is the multivitam you can actually trust, and it's like, well, why? How? So where this one got dinged from an audiolytics standpoint, if we're just talking about the key components, the key components are setup, value prop, demonstration, substantiation, offer, scarcity, path, execution. Where this one's getting dinged is substantiation. Like, yes, it's being read by a host, but this is something I'm putting in my body. Like, it'd be nice to hear some third-party validation. It doesn't have to be the whole ad, but something that gives me a reason that I actually can trust this thing. They touched on a little bit, but why is this the one that I could actually trust? And then, as I was listening to it, it got dinged on, again, the value prop. It's not as clear as it could be. They don't get into it like laser fast. Like, what are we talking about here? And then on the demonstration, again, it's like how does this actually work? How has it benefited me personally? Can they talk more about that for themselves? I think those are areas where it could all improve. But then something else that I just wrote down in addition to the Audiolytics score of 60 is like, choose to be, to me, this ad's like bland. Like, choose to either be distinct and like really do something interesting. Like, is there a sonic branding play that they could do? Is there a song? Is there a jingle? Is there something that this is a vitamin? Like, how do we make it stand out and make it different? Or if you're not going to do that, then just give me a lot of details. Because like, I think of like the insurance companies, that is a complicated, very intimate product. And so what have they chosen? They've chosen to be very distinct. Entertain us, connect with us emotionally, and then we transact with them. or they give us a whole bunch of details. Like on this one, I'm like, it didn't do kind of anything excellently. And I think so, like Adam with your score and then Audiolytics, same score. That's why it's coming in at, a little bit better than at 60%.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you guys. I think one of the things, again, we going back to content versus ad and hooks and all of that, they did have it. They started out, and I actually liked this. I think it went on a little long compared to the rest of the ad read, but it was like, let me guess, I can spot, you guys can spot a good, too good to be true hack from a mile away. You're hitting up your friends on the latest healthy aging stuff. You read labels, right? That's you. And then she goes into why that's important. So I thought that was really interesting because it was speaking to the audience. Clearly, they know their audience. They know the content they produce and why people listen, and that felt very tailored. I thought that was really nice. I think, again, that was half of the ad, and then it went into what actually Ritual was, and I think that was a miss because I do agree with you, Stu. I think they, it was no GMO, it's formulated friendly, it's vegan, it's gluten free, like that's all great and stuff, but like, why? Like tie that in hook into that intro back into like why Ritual is so important then. The other thing, and this is just because I am actually a big fan of Ritual, I think they do such a good job with the psychology principle, which is basically, is it a painkiller or a vitamin? Does it have an immediate effect? Then it's easier to form a habit. If it's a vitamin, right, there's no effect immediately. You're not feeling anything different. It's sort of long-term, happiness and whatever, dopamine buildup and stuff. And they mentioned this thing called the Minty tab. And the Minty tab is so beautiful because if you've ever taken a vitamin before, like hemp or whatever it is, fish oil, they smell awful. You open up the thing and it goes in, again, back to the psychology stuff, it like actually inhibits you from wanting to do those. And so they actually have this Minty tab that they put inside of their vitamins. So it feels like you're eating a piece of gum when you take it. And that is just like so beautiful. And she mentioned that, but I think they could have done, like, that is such a huge differentiator for Ritual. And I thought they could have dove into that because, again, from my perspective and having used Ritual.
Now I actually want to get it, Amelia.
Get you to do the read.
Yeah.
I mean, but right, like that's just such a relatable experience everybody has gone through, and I think just as a tip for Ritual, they should emphasize that a lot more because it is why don't all vitamins that we take like have some sort of minty, just it's an extract or a little tab they put in there and it makes everything taste. So I think that was beautiful. In terms of Podscribe's rating, let's look here. I think this one is it. Yes, here we go. So it gave it a drum roll. It gave it a 7. So okay. Pretty spot on with what you guys were saying. I think it overgraded it a little on some stuff. It talks about how the host spoke positively about the product, shares personal experiences. It could have done more about how that actually helped them. I think that was something we were missing. That if we like summarized all of our tips, it was clearly this is a great product, but like how has your life changed because of it, or what was a product you were using before and then you switched to Ritual because of this, and the recommendation was exactly that: share a personal experience about how that improved their life, and it makes the endorsement more compelling. So really, really interesting here. I think, again, it lines up. It maybe graded a little heavier, but I totally agree with you guys on all of that feedback.
There's a really good chance, too, that the show hosts don't have a lot of freedom to go deep into an endorsement side because it is in a supplement category. There's a lot of things you can't necessarily say about supplements. You can't say, well, this supplement helped cure me of X, Y, Z, or anything like that. So personal endorsements when it comes to health and fitness-esque products have to actually be fairly limited to comply with FDA regulations for those reasons, so that people aren't making claims beyond what, well, this vitamin is a vitamin that does this, and you can take it and supplement it, but I can't tell you necessarily how it's helped me.
Yeah.
I can tell you that it has been helpful, or I can tell you that I feel like I'm more energetic or anything like that. There's like loose barriers and what can and can't be said. So there are some limits there to a degree, so that may inherently hinder what a supplement read could sound like.
That's such a good point. Again, something that, this original prompt might not be able to take in consideration, which is why we're improving. But yes, such a good point. And I know a bunch of the other supplement brands, like they'll use our Podscribe's verification to make sure that it didn't have, they'll have certain claims or phrases that they're actually auto-checking to make sure that they don't say that, because those are huge flags for them and they can get in a lot of trouble. So really great context there. But overall, again, I think it wasn't an awful read. I'm so curious to, we'll listen to the next one, but I want to know what a 90 was. I don't know if you guys have examples, but we've got to pull one. I want to see what the Audiolytics 90 score is for a certain ad. But with that in mind, without further ado, we will move it on to the last one. All right, so LiquidIV, this is on the Stiff Shock show. Again, recent ad, July 5th is when this launched. So let's give it a listen. Oh, and LiquidIV is a hydration supplement.
I just said the same thing. Goddamn. Liquid IV. You know what I'm talking about? Dude,
IB Liquid IV.
you do.
Yep.
It's hot.
It is hot.
And you need to be hydrated.
Buddy, what's better for hydration than Liquid IV? Okay, it's the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. Is now available sugar-free. Do they send us a bunch of sugar-free ones?
Yes.
It's so good.
Years in the
still.
making, and you can't taste any difference. At least I can't personally. It has 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, plus 8 vitamins and nutrients for everyday wellness. It hydrates twice as fast as water alone. Think about water, double it.
Listen, we travel all the time, dude. For some odd reason, hotels, Airbnbs, no water. I don't
None.
even understand it.
None.
But we bring, freaking water bottles from the green room, and you put some of this in, and it's just a great start to the morning. I start my morning every single day with the vitamin C one. Tastes great. I feel awesome, and people undervalue hydration. I
do.
feel so much more. I have so much more energized with hydration. and this-
Energized.
buddy, and this is a great way to do it. So, okay, real people, real flavor, real hydration, now
Great flavors.
sugar-free. Grab your Liquid IV Hydration Multiplier sugar-free in bulk nationwide at Costco, or get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use code SOCKS at checkout. Buddy, that's 20% off anything you order when you use promo code SOCKS at liquidiv.com. Go get hydrated.
Do it.
And go get some hose.
Do a Lipa. Goddamn.
Okay, I loved that one. I thought that was absolutely incredible. Let me start off with my grading, and then we'll walk it around. I already saw what Podscribe graded on, but I would definitely have given that an 8 or 9. I think, again, knowing the context of the show, it sort of reminds me of that Manscaped ad that we reviewed. Like, it was very comedy focused. Clearly, these guys are very energetic, and I think they did such a great job at like bringing that in. I think this one, again, was a great example of it was content. Like, I actually was entertained listening to this, and I took some stuff away about Liquid IV and was intrigued. So I think that they did a really great job. They also mentioned so many different value props and features, which was amazing. And yeah, I just think overall it was really, really great and very conversational, funny, and entertaining just in content overall.
Yeah, look, I've seen Trevor Wallace perform live here in Calgary, and this is him in person, on his podcast, in his ad reads. This is just who he is, his personality, of how he talks about things. He has this like young frat boy-like energy when it comes to talking about things that he gets excited about. And one of the best parts about this ad is they talk about how it's energizing and it fills them up. And this ad has energy in it. Imagine if this ad was like, yeah, it's super great for energy, and like,
Exactly.
and they're just like yawning through an ad, like how bad that would be. But like they have so much energy through this. It feels like they might have just taken a whole bottle worth of Liquid IV right before this. I don't know what they did, but energy from top to bottom. They hit everything. They contextualize it into their own lives, how they travel, they go to Airbnbs, green rooms. It actually makes it sound like they use it in everyday life. Like, it is, in my opinion, this is a very, very, very well done, contextually fitted ad. The only crazy part is like how crazy the ad gets, and it's very loud, and it's very just, man, I almost had to take my headphones off because I was either going to laugh or I was going to blow an eardrum. But it was amazing either way, and I genuinely give this probably like a 9 out of 10, near a 10. Like, I would never be unhappy with this. Aside from maybe the brief mention of like, go get some hose at the end, I feel like some advertisers may not love that statement at the very end of an ad, but aside from that, you can't really have too much for complaints.
Interesting. I thought they were saying like go get some hose, like as in water hose, but no, probably
maybe.
not what they meant. No, that's such a good point. All right, so a 9 or a 10, you said?
Yeah, right in that ballpark. Like,
Okay.
I'd go either way. I don't know Liquid IV's tolerance for certain things, so maybe they're totally okay with it. It seems like they are. Contextually, actually, what's really interesting is the choice of ad, or the choice of show to advertise on. So their biggest competitor in this space is Element, LMNT, the brand, and Element tends to focus a lot more on being on strictly health and fitness oriented podcasts, where they want to be a lot more professional about what their product is, whereas Liquid IV has kind of said, let's open the floodgates to more of a normal, maybe comedy consumer audience. So they have definitely taken a different route in who they choose to target to. And as a result, they get different types of ads that come out of it.
Stu, what do you got to say?
Yeah, super strong read. This is the champion of the 3 that we've listened to today. From a scoring standpoint, it came out at a 79%. And again, you got to remember in Audiolytics that the target is 90, because like to get to 100, you're talking about checking the box on a single chunk of text on 71 binary elements that would have to be present or not present. So it's like a theoretical, it's like traveling at the speed of light, right? So, but from a practicality standpoint, if you guys have experienced yourself, right, it's a useful tool and framework to help hone us in. So 79% feels really, really good. The couple things that you could do to make it better are like super functional, tactical things that don't necessarily matter all that much because of like everything that you're saying. Both of you guys are saying like there's so much that this ad does right. And, at the end of the day, like they're talking about water. Like this is super simple, so keep it simple. I love, like you're saying, it gives you energy. They're high energy. And the practical story that they're telling with the level of detail that they gave feels so refreshing. And kind of like what you're talking about, Adam, like what I love about this is like, water is for everybody. And this makes it feel very like accessible and very practical. Like comedians have they run hard, and just think of anybody that's listening to comedians. I imagine there's probably a lot of people that are doing physical labor, people that are getting dehydrated, that are doing, like that. It's like, okay, yeah, this connects with me. I think from the tone standpoint, obviously it matches their tone. And then I think the sugar-free thing that they kept hitting on that, I think where like something that could improve the score would be, and you're having to make a trade, would be like specifics, facts and figures around like it's sugar-free, why is that better for my body? Like what are some facts and figures either stacking me up against the competition, or what are some facts and figures about LiquidIV? Those are the technical things that's going to start moving that score up, or potentially doing some kind of special offer that's got an end date attached to it as well. But again, I want to be easy on it because it's like it's water. They're basically saying this water hydrates you better and it gives you energy. Like you're saying, Adam, like they're delivering on that. So it's like, okay, let's not judge it too harshly on adding an end date, which would be helpful, I would say, like objectively. Giving facts and figures, like, okay, yes, that would be helpful. Those are the couple things that would move your score up. And then I just love that the guy said, what did he say? He's like, think about water, double it. It's like, what a funny comment.
Like, such fun quips.
Well, I'm like, that might be a great tagline for you guys. Like, think about water, double it. I'm like, that's awesome. So great ad. So as far as audiolytics standpoint, it stacks up LiquidIV and then the Caraway ad and then Ritual.
Awesome. Love it. All right. Let's see. Podscribe gives it a 9. Super on the dot with you, Adam. And I think honestly, Stu, even like just knowing that, like 90 is sort of it was pretty close. It's an 8 or a 9 for sure,
right
out of 10 on our scale. And I think it's close to that right there. Again, personal experience, that's great. They really do strongly encourage people to use it. And I think that I was like, shit, I should be doing this, especially since they have a sugar-free flavor now. And then they said maybe more specific examples about how it's improved their daily life. They clearly did mention that. He says he takes it, it gives them energy. He takes it every morning. It's a great way to start his day, but maybe go into that a little bit more. Again, I think the context here, Adam, to what you said was they are technically a supplement. So maybe they can't say too much about how it changed their life or how it made them feel. And then, I think overall we're all super aligned. Again, this one was so funny, so great. Really, this one and the Manscaped one are two of my favorite ads that we've reviewed. And again, it's water. It's so funny. And a lot of people know about LiquidIV now because they've been doing a big brand awareness push. It was just so well executed. And it's interesting to, if you were to test this with maybe some of the other things that you had mentioned, Stu, including a little bit more features, facts, and things like that. Because I think at the end of the day, what I was supposed to take away from this ad, I did. I think sometimes it's one or two things about a product that will convince you to buy. So for instance, Ritual, for me, it was the minty tabs. I don't care about it. Everything else was great. And that was part of my check boxes, but that was the reason I went with them over somebody else. And so I think, again, it's just so interesting because, they probably could have listed out a bunch of facts and figures and it probably would have been great. But there might be a couple things in here that just resonated so closely with their listeners that they didn't even need to hear those to be convinced to buy. Cool.
Absolutely.
Any last thoughts?
No, I think to wrap everything up, from my perspective in the conversation that we had today, really resonate with what Stu was saying. But let's contextualize what an ad should sound like, not in general, but for that show. That is really important to distinguish, is that some ads fit certain shows really well, where they wouldn't fit on another show. And it's really hard to set here's a standard for what a great ad is. Here's a standard for what should be in a great ad is maybe a better way to rephrase that question or that statement, and then say, but here's what a great ad would sound like for your show in specific, because that is different. So at some level, there always will be a little bit of human judgment that we need to play into all of this, and I love the scoring systems, but when sometimes you just hear an ad and you're like, yep, I would probably buy that product if I heard that ad and I was a listener to that show. And I think at the very little baseline judgment that I have, that's how I look at some of these shows, and I loved most of these ads. I really loved the Stiff Socks ad. Like, that one got me giggling, that one got me laughing. I'm also a Trevor Wallace fan, so maybe I'm a bit biased. But overall, yeah, really stoked with these, and hey, it's only up from here. Let's get making some better ads as we keep going.
Absolutely. All right, last quick question to you both then. So when it comes to that, because I love the way you guys phrase that, it's basically like, sure, there's best practices and there's this like perfect universe of like how an ad will never feel like an ad. Really what we're saying is try to fit it into the content or the context of which it's being played. And there's different things that are going to resonate with different people. So when you guys are working with an advertiser and then you're finding shows to buy them on, what does that process look like? Adam, I know you've mentioned, obviously you guys have like calls with the hosts, maybe not every time, but you have those sort of, at least onboarding things. Is there anything else that like you would do to help like the host and the brand sort of contextualize an ad read into the content?
Yeah, so we try to do onboarding calls with every single host. Now, sometimes you'll get the producer, sometimes you'll get a network rep, but as much as possible, try to get a direct line to the host and say, fundamentally, this is the statement I will always say to a host. You know your audience better than I or the brand that is sponsoring your show will ever know your audience. I trust you to take what we've given you as talking points and then to shape that for your audience in your tone in the way that you see to best fit it. Because at the end of the day, I can't predict how your audience is going to react necessarily to how I wrote something or how I designed it to be, because that's how I did it. You need to take this and do it yourself with what we've given you. There's some certain things we want you to say and certain things we don't want you to say, but you have a lot of free reign. And now that's harder to do with certain brands and certain products that have strict FDA regulations, because that gets a little bit more complicated. But nonetheless, that would be the former statement that I'll say before I even talk about copy ever. It's always, you know them better than I will ever know them. I trust you.
Great.
We're paying you money because we trust you.
Love it. Stu, thoughts?
I think everything Adam's saying spot on. It's like the image that comes into my mind that has evolved over the years is like we're like the guitar techs, and we're handing up the guitar to the guitar soloist. So the power of what we've developed over the years and having this framework of 71 checkpoints is I know that guitar is tuned. We have fought for every word in the exact order that it needs to be, so that I'm handing them a perfectly tuned guitar to do the thing only they can do. Or the other way I've thought of it is like Louis Armstrong's playing a trumpet, and a lot of times with creative teams or whatever, somebody coming in to doing podcasts is like, well, let me put my lips up next to Louis and like we're going to both try to play the trumpet at the same time. It's like, no, you can't do that. Like, you need to make the instrument, hand them this perfectly crafted instrument, and then let them do what only they can do. And I think from our conversation today, it was very illuminating that, like, make sure, and it is the way that we approach it, but contextualize, like, what is context is king, right? Or queen. Context is everything of like, what is the specific way this is going to be used? And, just like I'm agreeing is that like, yes, we can try to achieve that type of ad where there's that perfect tie-in. There's no more powerful words in the lexicon of advertising than I use this and you should too. That is the triumvirate of pathos, ethos, and logos, like it all coming together. This person that's in your ear that you feel emotionally connected to, that you know what, you are emotionally connected to. Even if they're not emotionally connected to you, you are emotionally connected to them. That is so super powerful, and that is special. And then there's lots of other ways, like you were asking, how do we approach it? It's like, let's look at, what's some sonic branding stuff that we can do, more with integrations. How can we specifically lean into any user interface sounds that somebody might have in an app? How can we put this stuff into the read so that we're grabbing every opportunity that we can to reinforce who this message is from? And then when things, they don't always work out. So that's what's nice, like I said, in building it with 71 pieces, you can know, okay, I'm building this thing in, now I'm going to let them do what they want. When things don't quite work out, I now know I have a list of 71 things I can look back at to go, okay, maybe if we tweak this, we tweak that, we tweak this. But what I want to say is that, like, dude, what is amazing, up into this point with AudioLix for a decade of doing this, I say 71 subcomponents, human brain shut down. ChatGPT doesn't. A human brain goes, that's too many.
Very true.
Just instinctually, creatives go, oh, there's no way, that can't be. Now with chat, we're levering with chat. I put in all those definitions and 10 years of data. It does not choke, right? And that's a whole other conversation is creative development, generative AI. Like all of a sudden there's, it's able to look at this and help us and operate in that way that I've seen it, which what is exciting to me about that, what I want to say with that is that that's now going to empower those creatives that maybe have felt intimidated or even just resistant to getting that detailed into their. Well, it can't be. It can't be that way. It's like now chat actually has shortened the way to empower them to be able to like, hey, look, you can look at it this way, partner with chat on it, and then you're able to get to even better creative faster.
Love it.
What's going to be even more interesting soon is the integration of ad measurement, not just on the quality of the ad, but the performance that ad drives in terms of a revenue basis on direct response. And you can cross-correlate those numbers to say, okay, you might have scored this really high on ad quality level, but it actually didn't convert that well, whereas this one was scored low, but converted even better. So you'll eventually have to reconcile those differences, and that's a whole nother layer of component, a whole nother data point to layer in that will hopefully contextualize and make even better decisions by and probably has to do a lot to do with the contextualization of the ad on that particular podcast. So really interested to see that development coming out.
Amazing. All right. Well, we are out of time. This was so incredible. We'll have to do this again soon. We would love to be on your podcast. But thank you guys so much. I think this was really, really awesome. And we're really looking forward to some more episodes soon. And again, hopefully having you on. I think we could have all probably talked for another 3 hours, even outside of just reviewing these ads. So love you guys. Thank you so much. Once again, this was Make Better. Tune in next week for some awesome other episodes. Again, if you have any feedback, please, you can find all of our information in the show notes. And then we're always looking for new ad reads that we want people want us to have on, new brands, all of that sort of stuff. So thank you all again, and Adam and Stu, thank you guys for joining us. This has been Make Better. Let's make better ads.
Do it.
And make some better ads.
1 week at a time.
1 week at a time. Woo! All right, take care, guys.